Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's indeed a great honor for me to be part of this prestigious national conference. And the most striking part is the family and the primary care. Thanks to the Honorable Chairperson for introducing me. Well, I do agree with the introduction given by ma'am. This is not about medical science anymore. This is not about home science anymore. It's so much to do with the existence of humankind. And as we move forward, I think what we are confronted time and again on a daily basis, not in the clinics per se, but at our own family systems or in the schools we come across, there are socio-dynamic changes which are so remarkable, unmistakable, that the nation was not technically prepared for it, Well, administratively, we have policies coming through, programs coming through, but the war which is about understanding the young minds, and especially when the young minds question the answers we give them, and they challenge, they assert our own behaviors to accommodate their own behaviors for the next, say, millennium, 20, 30, 40 years. I think it's a wake-up call, as you said rightly. I think it's not about who has a teenager at home. I think, are we prepared to be teenagers ourselves, as doctors, as mothers, as fathers, as school teachers and principals? How many of you have teenagers at home? Or you are getting jitters about the coming teenagers at home? Quite a lot. I think, yeah. So you may identify with what I share as sentiments in the next few moments, or you may even suggest, I suggest there should be one or two interactions at the end of it. A lot what I am going to share with you in terms of few slides only, but a little more of a heart-to-heart talk, is actually made by school kids. Now this was part of a collage when we recently had a small competition on the charm and the challenge of adolescents. So war is too important to be left to generals alone. They told the doctors, don't leave this war to only yourself or my dad and mom. I think you need to allow us to be empowered. So are we ready to empower them? We'll come to that. Now you'll be wondering why I'm talking about a classroom. One, because the primary care in health and the primary care in education is the same. We look at a community-based approach, they look at a community-based approach now because they're looking at partnerships with the community to understand the classroom, the school, the family. And if we are part of a family, and we call it family medicine at the inception of the thought, they also are wondering what they can do for us. Tomorrow, Monday, is the National Policy of Education Child Health Component meeting. And you'll be surprised, it's a coincidence that we are sharing this thought today. The NPE, the new policy of education, the government is revising after 35 years, has a phenomenal inclusion of life skills, special needs children, and child health. Because when we have been advocating very strongly over the last 10 years, I think teenagers have gone through your schooling, the early schooling. I'm sure you didn't come across a great amount of curriculum related to health in the school. At the most, a mention about the WHO definition of health and few parameters about tropical infections and all. I heard Dr. Saab talking from CMC. What about NCD? NCD has a million affliction to the young minds of our nation. You look at the cancer, diabetes, obesity, depression for that matter, suicides, drug abuse, road traffic accidents, most of them, the youngest lot are the targets, the victims, 15 to 35 years. And the school-going population, we've heard all of you sharing wonderful data on obesity, on cardiovascular problems and depression, destined to be the third highest killer by 2020 according to WHO. And 60% are adolescents who will be afflicted by endogenous clinical depression. Are we prepared for it? So are we looking at an inclusive society where my primary care and your primary care, which is education, health and social justice, are working together? I think the FPAI can do a lot in taking the lead in this. Well, we are looking at holistic development. We are looking at spiritual component also. Surprisingly, the newer definition of education, if you go back to the NCERT and the CBSE curriculum, is actually the objective of going to school is the overall human development, and they specify physical, mental, social, and spiritual. Isn't that definition of health also, minus the infirmity or disease? So we are actually working together, us and the system beyond us, when we look at children and adolescents. No wonder primary care becomes so important or community medicine becomes so important. We are welcoming these communities because they are dependent on us. It has been time and again proven that a lot will depend on how children and their well-being, children and their fundamentals of health, including psychological health, will define the capacity of their learning, their IQ and their EQ in the family and in the schools. So the neighborhood doctor, the pediatrician or the family physician becomes the most paramount person, more than the teacher, more than the school teacher or even the dad and the mom, to actually educate, advocate, be a spirit of adventure to understand how family medicine can influence the young minds. And it is no more about health anymore. It's not about physical health. We know definitions have been kept changing. What we are worried is adaptation, adjustment, accommodation of the adolescents to the different environments they are going to live with. Now, I happened to be in a principals conference where more than 1,500 principals were there in Cochin some time back. And these are the issues raised. How can the physicians of India, they didn't know about FPI, they don't know much. They don't know about IMA because we don't connect with them and they don't connect with us. The only connecting link is the adolescent or the child. They were asking us how you can educate us to improve learning in the classrooms, because children come, they have diet, sleep, no activity nowadays, addicted to electronics, they are temperamental, they are easily irritable, defiant, hostile, aggressive, into drugs, into smoking, and these are urban kids. How can you help us as physicians? Do all of us have an answer for this? Do have modules ready for them? Do we have 15 lakh schools in the country, which is more than the total population of children in the world, in Switzerland? I was given this data that children in some of the European countries are much less than the schools we have. 15 lakh schools. 15 lakh schools is not a joke. And RTE says that no child should be seen around begging, laboring. They should all go to school, right to education. And are we prepared as an association of lakhs and lakhs of physicians to partner, to align, to accommodate the adolescent of tomorrow? These are what the learning environments can be, which includes a family, and we are all partners to it. We have children, we have teenagers at home. I just shared with you what the National Curriculum Framework actually is now talking about. The purpose of growing, the experiences of growing, are those growing experiences meaningfully organized in my family and in my school? Are they being accomplished? Do you know how many girls actually write the 12th standard board exam? Adolescents I'm talking about. After 100 of them join in the pre-primary and primary, less than 10%. 40% still get married by the time they are 18 in India, or they're made to get married. How many of them are anemic? You know better than me. How many of them go through vital vitamins deficiencies, which actually influence their learning capacity, their brain development, their physical development? And then how do we talk of mental health without the physical health and social health? Discriminatory attitudes. So these are the partnerships we are looking at for the future. The PM has just signed this, or probably the pledge given to the UN, that we will also be partners to Sustainable Development Goals. Millennium Development Goals we could not achieve more than the baseline, in which education and health for all, for children especially, was a major criteria. And when we look at people, the planet, the partnership, the justice, the prosperity and the dignity of every human being, a lot of this unanimously is still not happening for the young minds. Yesterday I was at Pune, the Indian Association of Child and Adolescent Mental Health. I've just relinquished the post to the president. And in the address I was supposed to, the topic was psychological adversities and the lost childhood of India. Paradoxically, a nation which is showing nearly 9 to 10% GDP, GNH, and maybe per capita income is losing its childhood, but growing in numbers. We know that we have 24% of adolescents as part of our population, which is nothing less than 35 crores of only people from 10 to 19 years of age, which is again very close to the entire population of the Americas, North America. Entire population of North America is our adolescents only. So are we ready to take this volcano of population with so many physical morbidities affecting the mental health morbidity? The Indian scenario, as I told you, 45% of people are youth up to 25, 26. But then a huge chunk, majority of the mental health problems, let me tell you, the MMDs, when we talk of the major mental disorders, which is of interest to us as physicians, actually start during adolescence. All the schizophrenias, majority of the schizophrenias, mainly the simple schizophrenia, the catatonic variety, and some degree of paranoid schizophrenia, the bipolar mood disorders. How many of you would have actually come across? I'm sure you do. Childhood mania coming up. Bipolar mood disorder with manic episode coming up at 11, 12, 13 years of age with the onset of puberty. Because social stimulation being high, puberty onset being much early in India, thanks to electronic influences and social media, the chances are that we will be losing a lot of adolescents to deviation, to deficiency, or disruption of their behaviors. This is what WHO is predicting. We are not having a single adolescent health policy, neither a ministry looking after adolescent health, but we have very good policies coming up now. Thanks to the Ministry of Health, you have the RSK, you have the Sabla scheme for the adolescent girls, and so on and on. But they should be visible. To whom? To the adolescent. The Sabla, the Saheli, and the Saksham schemes from the Ministry of Women and Child Development, excellent schemes. The MOH is coming up, but the growing numbers is still so high that you compare this over here. The mental disorders, and large chunk of this is, by the way, adolescents only, because that's a time when we lose grip on them to the education, which is often not encouraged in most of the families beyond a certain point. As many as nearly now, this is about 600 million people are affected by mental illnesses, which are major mental disorders, apart from the so-called minor ones, which grow up into major, the depressive spectrum, the anxiety spectrum, the spectrum concerning the psychosomatics, and the drug abuse and personality disorders. I'm not going to the classification, but 4 of the 6 leading causes of years which are lived with disability, the DALYs, disability adjusted living morbidities, are due to neuropsychiatric disorders, and the young people are the largest affected population. We are a young nation, apparently, since we have 60% of our population being youth, more than the Chinese spectrum now. We are not prepared for actually even in the primary care to identify the basic signs and symptoms to help a family raise an alarm that here is a teenager, here is an adolescent who needs a little bit of an extra attention for day-to-day behaviors before it is too late to become a diagnosis. I think we have already discussed NCD, but my idea was to share the NCD profile with relevance to the adolescents. And I have been told, I've been educated by our physician counterparts that the young people are the largest affected in this because the way lifestyles are being lived. They have to live with identity, our adolescents, which is a new age identity. They don't call it a crisis, but we are perceiving a crisis because for them that is their way of life. Now, the average, I'm also part of the Indian Sleep Disorders Association, and when we look at conferences and their discussions, you'll be surprised that a large number of our outpatient settings in mental health are insomnia in adolescents, which is probably 60% of the symptoms from any adolescent group that comes to us. So with the emotionality, the identity at a crossroad, who will understand me? They don't understand me. Will I ever get a chance to speak to my dad besides the Sunday? Will I have a teacher who looks at me in the classroom at least, not call me by a roll number? Will I have the principal who will ever say good to me for being just a boy or a girl and not just an achiever for the school? Now, these are the little humble demands they're making on us, and we are not prepared, because then the peer group becomes my father, mother, and teacher. Then, obviously, when the peer group, my friends, my best friends are my parents and teachers, because the others have less time, energy, and investment for me, the new age adolescent, the chances are that I'll align by what my friends feel is most important for me. Stark realities are, this is the Indian realities, and I just wanted to share this with you. The MWCD says 53.2% of child respondents were abused as children, in which none of them, especially sexual abuse, was ever reported to the next of kin. We are the highest in the world, by the way. Highest in the world in terms of numbers, maybe less by percentage, where child abuse is there. And ICMR 2001, and now the multicentric studies are coming up, says that nearly 20%, 15 to 20% of our young ones actually suffer from major mental disorders, I've just told you. It has been told to us, warned to us by WHO that life skills education in schools, helping children to cope up better with a new kind of a skill development. Incidentally, it has strongly been recommended, and we have the modules readied now for the family physicians and general practitioners, which we are doing it with the DMA and also a lot of populations of general practitioners as a orientation course in mental health. Sir is here, he's aware of that. WHO published a review of 1,050 scientific articles on sex education programs. One of the huge areas where the notion of imparting sex education has been objected to. The governance felt that you'll be educating sex to children and not sex education. So they banned it. So now they call it the adolescent education, which is okay, acceptable. But children say that if cigar is a cigar, let me know exactly what you want to teach me. I'll not go buy a package which talks about adolescence, and actually I want to know how to withhold my sexuality till the time I am 21. Teach me brass tacks. They don't want any more sermons from us. They want no lectures from us. They want interactions and empowering dialogue, which helps them to take decisions through a program which to them is best as life skills education. I'll come to that. I remember the better definition I heard from teenagers was the age between ponytails and cocktails. And I thought it was amusing. In the collage when I saw this, what do you understand by adolescence? This group of girls from one of the convents here wrote, ponytails and cocktails ke beech ka umar hai, and nobody understands this for us. It is so good to see that electronics has been a boon to us, so much of a boon to us. But the time has come that we need to have detox centers for them. America has a lot of them. Are we ready? What will you advise a teenager who comes to you for 4 to 5 hours being online? Facebook, WhatsApp, or with their friends, computer. Now DSM-4 revised edition and ICD-10 by WHO says anything for a period of say 15-20 days, which is overwhelming usage of electronic media, including computers and mobile phones, need to be put into a diagnosis by people like you and us. What do? Internet gaming disorder, internet addiction disorder, and you advise these teenagers and their families they should be put into a detox center, electronic detox centers. In California, they have a friend of mine who's working with the association there. They have a 21 or a 30-day program where they actually do what? They teach you what India should, yoga, meditation, to move out from electronic addiction, and of course give medication to suppress their impulsivities and violent behaviors. Victims of sexual assault getting younger, predators are getting more brutal. Now this is not about actual hardcore sexual abuse in the community and conviction under crime, but JJ Act says, Delhi, I saw the report recently, we were part of it, the National Crime Records Bureau says there is a 301% increase in the adolescent crime, even in the urban India, from young ones coming from the better schools. It's not just about poverty, unemployment, broken families, or alcoholic fathers. It's a lot to do with liberty, freedom, liberalization, globalization, privatization. Are we also looking at adding to our history taking in the clinics all these factors? I feel we should. I sincerely request the FBI to, we can also contribute to that in any way to have a proper, maybe contextualized and customized child and adolescent mental health history taking, which has relevance to the times today and not conventional history taking pro formas, which actually may be outdated for when you talk to the teenagers. Because they need a lot of empathy while we take the history. They feel intimidated by us when we take histories. It could be a therapeutic history taking. It could help to build a rapport with them, a therapeutic alliance with them, not unlike we do for the regular patients. Very amusing, no? A girl by majority and boys in minority abused at home or sexually abused at home, and they happen to tell the teacher and the counselor, who are their best friends and not the mom and dad or the doctor. The teacher has to file an FIR against the family. Are we aware of this? The POCSO Act, the Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act, I was part in the making of it, and it sounds as a rude shock to the community, because huge amount of family-based interventions are required, and nobody should spare the perpetrator according to the law, even if it happens to be, in India, 72% and more abuses happen within the family systems, the large family system. Are we prepared as physicians? Because we will be the first people in the contact to come across a silent whisper by the abused young one who says, "Uncle, auntie, can you hear me? Should I tell my counselor or teacher or you? Because you are the medical person." We are not prepared. We don't have any training programs for general practitioners orienting them to identify, intervene, and early take on the responsibility of a victim child, the traumatized child, or the... I'm also been conducting the programs for the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, but the POCSO Act, please let us revise it. It has a lot of relevance for practitioners in medical science rather than school teachers. But most of the cases I have been asked to evaluate on part of the government were cases told to the class teacher, the best teacher, the counselor, and not to dad, mom, and their doctor. There's something flawed in us that we don't become the first-hand reporters. Bullying. Now, I'm only touching upon some areas which are hugely coming to us as clinical problems in adolescents. Now, schools have their own guidelines. You may go through the CBSE website, print out. There is a bullying guideline, there is a corporal punishment guideline, and that guideline says it is about how families manage children also. When we hear the word corporal punishment, हम सोचते हैं कि स्कूल में पिटता होगा बच्चा. हम लोग सब पिटे थे. We are all, but we probably remember those teachers because they didn't humiliate us. Children feel that I was humiliated. But more than that, when people like me and my group of psychologists in places where we have the child and adolescent centers in the country, they evaluate, you'll be surprised, more than 75% of abuses are coming from the family, including corporal punishment. If a teacher raises a hand at the last bencher, what are you up to? Children call it child abuse, and they call the media to the school. But if dad hits, belts, caned the child, black, blue, center, it's the honor of the family. It's never reported. How much are we as an association ready to take up family campaigns, because our name attaches FPAI, family. And if the family is inadvertently, ignorantly, unknowingly the perpetrators of many adolescent mental health issues, are we prepared to educate the families with pamphlets and with maybe areas where in our clinics we can have families told that indirectly only your listening, your caring, your passion to the child, and maybe your being a partner and a companion to the child could be healing. You don't have to come to the doctor. Well, we need orientation courses for them. A lot of adolescents in our workshops are inviting us to the schools to tell us that educate my parents to be better parents, not the teachers. So bullying at home is what I'm telling you. Bullying at home, not at school, is a bigger problem. How many of us did have pet names to be called as Motu, Kaddu, Laddu, and all those things? And that bullying component gets actually malignant when it is transferred. And most of the studies done by the education department says more than 80% of these kids are actually bullied at home, and they became bullies in the school. So any child who's a miscreant as an adolescent or turning into an aggressive, clinical type of a violent behavior is found to actually coming in from the role modeling at home. Not only by the media, we blame it on the media. It's very easy to blame it on the media. कि बच्चे जो टीवी में देख रहे हैं वो सीख रहे हैं. But families where communication is better, talking is better, sharing is better, thrashing out newspaper reports like this is better on the dining table. Those children are much more healthier, stable, restrained, and also more sensible. But we don't have that time. The last I had been to the Amity school in Gurgaon last Saturday, and there were 200 parents, and I asked them, how many of us actually land up having dinner together? You'll be surprised, 20%. Because the kitchen runs from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. till the last person enters home. Where there's no time to even enjoy a dinner together within the family, we are not expecting adolescents to listen to us, no? They won't listen to you. We expect them to be going to the neighboring doctor, the family physician, taking lessons. Dr. K.K. Agrawal is here. I think he's very well aware of how the adolescents in Delhi respond when we interact with them. They say, doctor, there's no point in telling us, tell our parents. They need to know that I'm in 9th standard now. My father never came for a PTM. They need to know that they produced us but not taken care of us. They've given me everything in life except themselves. So these are the returns we get when we give them best of the mobiles and the best of the cars. They wanted you, not those things. So it's nice to hear these histories in the history taking, and it's an education for people like us who are sitting on this side of the table to take care of our own children, because the patient, so-called patient adolescent teaches us. So in short, what I'm trying to say is the percentage is huge. The 35 crores of them, India needs about 1.2 lakh psychiatrists and psychologists, and we have just about 10,000 of them. Minimum requirement. So we've been discussing many times, sir knows about it, that IMA can do a wonderful job, FPI can do a wonderful job, because this population is now going to challenge us. It's not going to listen to us. It's going to challenge us that, like Mahatma Gandhi said, that don't leave the world for children, that they'll turn around and tell you, this is what you left for me. And this is exactly what they are telling us now. I feel that drugs and aggression is something repetitive and parroting which we do in our clinics. It's not so. It is about self-esteem, self-confidence, self-reliance, empowerment of the emotions of a child. The EQ which parents can develop through the family physicians, little bit dialogue of 10 minutes or pamphlets and education on the TV screen in your clinics, which does wonders, because schools will always have time, but school will do it in large numbers. You and us can do it in single to single, but we need orientations, we need small time works on those. This is a model which we have given to schools where parents are involved and doctors are involved. So doctors, parents and children, where you look at the first part of the inverted pyramid, the well-being, the mental well-being applies to each of us. The target could be the child, but I think the stakeholders need more education about basic health needs of adolescents, the percentage needing urgent psychological help, and teacher training and parental training through the family physicians. This is available on the WHO website. This is a global model which they have advocated for community mental health of children and adolescents and their training programs. So we all know, in short, the most rapid, intensive changes happen during this part. I come to understand that the changes that happen from 10 to 19 never happen in life again. Because for policy making, 10 to 19 is adolescents. For law, it is still 18 years. And whatever may be the support the government gives to adolescents, I think it is important for them to also know the flip side of it, that laws are against them also. There's a Juvenile Justice Act is not just about taking care and compassion. It is for protection of children and adolescents. It has a lot to do with the conviction of crime also. And a lot of parents ask physicians, is there not a law where I can even tell my adolescent who's into severe hostility and defiance with me, abusing parents and grandparents, that I can take you to law? I'm talking about very extreme cases, but you've had those. I mean, the 3 children homes in Delhi are run from our counselors who run the mental health unit there, including the boy, the Nirbhaya boy who's being released on December 18th. The court is still grappling what to do, what are the rehab procedures, but we all know about it, it's coming in the media. And when counselors approach this boy, there is a whole lot of adolescent psychopathology which speaks that it was not my family, it was not my education. I think it's the way I was looked up to. Well, there's no empathy, but what I'm looking at, these are hard cases. Soft cases we all come across from well-to-do families, from who's who of Delhi and the country, and their adolescents. But yes, they are spoken in silence and in whispers that, okay, so what can we do with this adolescent? The last time I remember an industrialist who asked me to come home and see the adolescent because the girl was into drugs and almost having a physical breakdown because of the immense amount of party drugs, including the ones which we never heard. All of them, many of them teach us that, doctor, you don't know what best cocktails we can make out of these. Ganja and alcohol is pass. You look at LSD, cocaine combination with beer and vodka, that's the in thing. Come to a Saturday evening party at a Delhi pub, you'll know where the world is. So it's not their ignorance. I think the lighter vein, I remember this, the Calvin Hobbes series, the cartoon series, which one school showed us during their adolescent workshop. This little girl who is 13 years old, she's told by her mother, little baby, I think you're growing up, so we need to talk about you. She's quite alarmed and very happy that mother is wanting to talk to me about my growing up. And she says, sexuality is something which we should discuss as mother and daughter, because nobody else might teach you the right way in terms of your sexual health. The girl is so thrilled. And the next clipping, the movie shows that, okay, both of them are walking in the garden, and they go and sit on the bench, and the girl says, tell me, mom, what do you want to know about sexuality? And the mom is taken alarmed. She's almost probably needing the help of a cardiologist, because she thought she'll help the girl. The girl says, you tell me what you want to know. I know the world of sexuality. I'm not going into the further statistics given to us by the government, because I think some of them are phobic. Who says teenage pregnancies are not happening here? Who says the boy-girl relationship is not taking dangerous turns at 11 years and 12 years and 13 years? I'm not even talking 18 years. It's a nightmare for some parents. But the contact with our own medical personnel who runs the family doctor or the family medical support is not there. We are finding, I'm working with the education system, I'm on their policy making. I feel sometimes a little, I'm not using the hard word, I'm feeling a little helpless and not ashamed that medical science is not as much as into community care, as much as into hospital-based care, as much as education is into community care. The schools are partnering with agencies, the colleges are partnering with agencies like us, and us are not participating with agencies like them. So I think we need to have a better holistic approach which actually breaks the barriers of healthcare. If Americas can do it, why not we? This self-concept is what I saw in a collage, I got it, that you're breaking my self-concept while I'm growing up. No wonder I land up in clinics as an adolescent, because that's only the outcome of my broken self-concept, which is influenced by you, by parents, by religion, by whatnot. A lot of debates happen on these. And the pathology which comes to clinics is only a tip of the iceberg. We need to evaluate the self-concept. So, not that I think physicians have a wonderful training, all of us have wonderful training, even as psychiatrists, but I think the context and the content has to change in the way we assess teenagers when they come to us. The way we build up the rapport with them, how we look at all these factors in a progressive manner, and it can help us to discover that it is not they who are the patients. It is a family who needs overall family life management. What we learned from our specialties, many courses run by the IMA, family life education. You talk in family life education, you talk in terms of family management rather than you the adolescent management. They'll come to you, otherwise they'll run away. The dropout rate of adolescent clinics is only because we claim that they are the perpetrators, they are the ones who are creating problems. They actually are an outcome of a lot of family and personal and social issues. So these are all the list of issues which you all know. Surprisingly, overfed but undernourished adolescents are a in thing in urban metros. Because simple things like what is a balanced diet, what is a minimum activity, what is a minimum sleep pattern required for turning from 9 years to 13 years and then moving on to adolescence is not given by the right people at the right time for the right purpose. So then the schools depend on people like us and you. Because we have huge number of, Delhi has 2,400 schools. 2,400 schools with only 150 approximately having a school counselor. Many of them do not have a panel doctor. Surprisingly, when I insisted to CBSE that nurse, counselor and a doctor should be visible, why are you not having it? They say we only keep it for inspections. Otherwise, the doctor is on call once in a week or so. Doctor as an educator, doctor as a health educator, mandatory. And they pay well, by the way. It's not bad. But are we prepared to leave our clinics for 2 hours in a week only to become health educators for adolescents? Then the answer would be there that they'll like to partner with us. The method here which the government has given is empowering them. So these 4-tier method which the government is now advocating is provide opportunities for making informed choices in real life situations, which applies to actually all of us more than teachers. Improve the adolescent-friendly health services, the AFHS, in your clinics, and link it with the existing programs of the government which promote adolescent health. Provide education and build life skills. Life skills education was not produced by teachers and school principals and school systems. Life skills education was the term given by Professor Gilbert Botwin at the Cornell University, who is in mental health. And the entire US followed that for 25 years, the models which now the WHO advocated for the school system. Time limit, sir. And our education system is following it. Strangely, the best of the methods to improve coping skills, minimizing risky behaviors, approaching to adjusting life areas has been provided by health sciences. But I think in India we need to have our bodies coming together to look at this as a sustainable phenomena, not just something to be enrolled into education. So I'll end with this. I'll show you some posters which children are doing. Strangely, this is a recent thing which has come up. So 2 years down the line, more than 150 short films made on health education by, it is International Young Filmmakers Festival on Social Issues, which include a lot of health issues. And a lot of them find this interesting because the method of teaching is novelty. You tell them to take a camera, to use the IT, they love it. You give them a lecture on a PowerPoint, they don't like it. So they say, okay, give me drug. And you know what? The best of the films were on mental health, drug abuse, tropical infections. Strangely, a lot was on how to talk to your teenager. The adolescents made it. Short films. The inter-school adolescent festivals, they invite more doctors than parents to actually talk on these lectures. Then the adolescent peer educators. Let the peer educators, let my friends and me be trained to be an adolescent counselor, proactive adolescent counselor in the schools. These are programs coming up in large numbers and government has adopted. I'll show you this. The campaign for bullying-free schools launched by the CBSE, doing wonderful job in terms of advocating both how aware and responsible youngsters can be in schools and report lesser degree of aggression and bullying in schools. The Association of Indian School Counselors, very interesting association with about 1,000 school counselors and allied professionals who can be all of us also, by the way. They have a global conference in Delhi in February, and the themes are exactly what we are talking today and yesterday. Wellness of adolescents and children, who is going to take responsibility? And mindfulness and mental health of our children, who is going to take responsibility? The school counselor per se, who is our representative in schools indirectly, isn't it? For full-time employee of the school, is a representative of the physicians and surgeons who take care of adolescents outside, is actually quite confused because the role and the responsibility of a counselor was not well defined. So they formed an association. They asked people like us to come and be the advisory group for that. And now they're taking up issues. There's a global conference. We have 2-3 professors from Harvard, from Europe and Australia coming to talk about how mental health of children and adolescents is no more a partnership between medical sciences. It is a school, doctor, parent, and administrator partnership. Interesting. Then we have this International Summit on Adolescent Life Skills and Mental Health coming up, where about 500 schools are participating, where adolescents make their own charter. This is the 4th year now, own charter and give it to all the ministries, that you please listen to me, because I am also 35 crores of the nation. And schools are finding it interesting because we find they are empowered to look at health, nutrition, life skills, well-being, values, education, and come together. So I think hope is there, a lot of optimism. But as doctors, promotion of child mental health being adolescent health and counseling courses, these are areas which we have tried to... Sorry to interrupt you,
sir. We are exceeding the time limit.
So education, health, and social justice are the 3 areas which we all have to join together. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to think about this. With Dr. KK being here and taking the lead in many of these things, I think we are all joining the bandwagon and we find it very interesting, both in terms of our learning and what Albert Einstein said, where the fundamental emotion of young people, when we look at their life, should be in a mixture of true art and true science. And if this is the right time, I think we are all together. Thank you.